And welcome once again, Disability Law Show. John Scholes along Sivan Tumarkin, reaching out anytime while we go through this half hour. You can do that, 1-855-821-5900. Disabilityrights.ca is the website, and help@disabilityrights.ca is the email address. Sivan, lots to get through today, including 3 things you must do if you're struggling to work because of depression. That is on the way, but you got a story to tell off the top, pal. How are you?
I'm very good, John. Good. Let me start off by telling you not a story about a person who contacted me, an individual who's been cut off, LTD, which is what we usually talk about. But this time it's about a psychologist who had reached out to me. And this psychologist has been practicing for over 20 years and apparently is a regular viewer of our show, John. Just to get educated, he has patients, various patients that are in various stages of applying for disability, long-term and short-term disability. And, you know, he, up until he started watching our show, was under the illusion that when an insurance company sends one of his patients to an IME, to an independent medical assessment examination, and the insurance doctor says that the person is no longer disabled or is not disabled enough from working, he was under the impression that there's nothing that he and his patient could do otherwise, even though his own opinion was contrary to that of the medical assessor hired by the insurance company. But after watching our show, he understands that that's not the case. Now, the reason he called me is because he has a particular situation with one of his patients, and one of his patients has been cut off long-term disability as a result of a negative assessment by an insurance doctor, a psychiatrist hired by the insurance company to assess that individual. And so the psychologist that contacted me wanted to know, how can he rebut the opinion of that psychiatrist? In other words, what does he need to put in his report to help his patient appeal that decision? Notice I said the word appeal. A very bad word, obviously, for us, John, because he, again, was under the impression for quite a few years that that is the route that his patients should go to before they go to a lawyer like myself and ask questions. And, of course, after watching our show, he understands, and he's been telling his patients to just contact us directly once they're cut off, or if they're told that they're going to be cut off or denied long-term disability. And so, you know, I spoke with him for over an hour, and we had a very, very good conversation. Nothing specific. In other words, he didn't divulge any confidentiality, any confidential details about his patients, but he just wanted to understand a bit about what exactly he should be putting in his reports. And so we went through everything. I explained exactly what he should be doing to strengthen his reports, but not for the purposes of appealing those denials, for the purposes of starting a legal claim, once that's started, to, you know, for the purpose of supporting those legal claims against the insurance company. And, you know, we agreed to stay in touch, and we also agreed that to the extent that his patients require any legal help, I would be more than happy, either myself or a member of my team, to speak with his patients. And again, I reiterated to him, it's all free. This is all free. This is us as lawyers giving this free information to doctors, John, to treating practitioners like this gentleman who called me, his patients, and members of the public who have questions about their long-term disability claims. This is what we're here for. I'm very happy he reached out. I'm also happy, by the way, that he told me that he spoke with some of his colleagues, and his colleagues are probably going to reach out to me with respect to various cases that they're dealing with, various patients, again, with the permission of their patients. So, you know, it was a very feel-good conversation, and I'm very happy that we're reaching not just individuals out there who need help with their long-term disability claims, but the actual individuals who are helping them, who are treating them, psychologists. I've spoken to chronic pain doctors. I've spoken to orthopedic surgeons. I've spoken to a wide array of treating professionals, medical professionals, in order to educate them and help their patients just, you know, fight back against these unfair denials by insurance companies.
You know, when it comes to that denial, though, and the insurance company sends these people for an IME, is it always the case that they're seeing someone? Is it not always just a paper file that another doctor sees? How does that possibly have any weight against a treating doctor that has been treating a patient possibly for years with a disability?
You're absolutely right. And in fact, you've mentioned these paper reviews. What a paper review is when an insurance company does not have you seen by one of their doctors, but instead they send your medical documentation to one of their consultants or doctors. It could be a doctor or it could be somebody without a medical degree, and they get a written opinion. And of course, in my view at least, those opinions are extremely weak, because oftentimes you need to assess the individual. You need to get direct information from the individual. You may need to do a battery of tests on that individual, whether it's a psychological issue that you're examining or a physical one or a combination of the two. These paper reviews are generally very weak, and I can tell you they're attackable. I mean, I attack them all the time. Insurance companies, when they're faced with a legal claim from our office, and if they've relied on a paper review in order to cut off a person from their LTD, I can tell you I have yet to have a claim that did not resolve. Meaning, I have yet to have a claim where the insurance company did not come to the table and pay my clients the money that they owe them once we started that legal process. So you're right. And by the way, because of the whole COVID pandemic, I can see those kinds of reviews increasing, potentially, because now people are afraid to go, to come out of their house, to go to these assessments. I'm getting more and more emails and phone calls from individuals who are asking me, do I have to go in person to these assessments? And I tell them, no, you don't, especially if you have a doctor, somebody who's treating you, who can write something in support of you not attending in person. I think it's crazy to have, to force people to attend these assessments in person, especially since most of these assessments can be done via Zoom. But, again, circling back to what you mentioned, John, paper reviews, if you've been cut off or denied on the basis of a paper review by an insurance company doctor, you have to reach out to me, at the very least, to just talk so I can give you your options.
Call the number anytime, have a chat. It's totally stress-free and more in length than you can do here on the show in 30 minutes. 1-855-821-5900 is the number. help@disabilityrights.ca is the email. Sivan, we're going to get our first email for the day from that email address. It's from Nick. It says, I had surgery to correct my problem with double vision, but that only made the pain in my eye worse. I tried working for a year, but my condition worsened. I went on LTD, but was soon cut off when the insurer's doctor said there was no objective medical evidence of my disability. What should I do?
Well, Nick, this is obviously very unfortunate, and I'm sorry you're going through this. I can tell you have options. You should not have been cut off LTD. This idea that you need objective, quote unquote, medical support for your illness. I mean, John, think about this for a second. What kind of objective medical support you're going to have, for migraines or for chronic pain, potentially, or for depression, anxiety? This idea that you need this objective support is just not rooted in reality. It's just not. I have yet to see a long-term disability policy that stipulates that you have to have some kind of an objective medical document or test to prove that you are disabled. And I can tell you, John, even if they had those kinds of policies and provisions, they would be very difficult, because how do you define objective? I mean, you can start arguing with a philosopher what's objective, what's subjective, but the reality is that as long as you have a disability, and it's confirmed by whoever's treating you, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, some kind of a doctor, that disables you from working, either in your own occupation for the first 2 years or in any occupation for which you're suited for, beyond the 2-year mark, you should get LTD. And so for Nick here, to the fact that he's been cut off because the insurance company says there's no objective medical support, that's crazy to me. Especially since we're talking about a surgery, by the way, that he had to have.
Yeah.
So to me, that's just crazy. But it's not the craziest thing I've heard. I've heard many crazy things. Insurance companies utilize literally every excuse they can find, whether it's grounded in reality or not, whether it's grounded in fact or not. They use it, they'll throw it at you. Oftentimes they'll throw different excuses, a multitude of excuses. Why? Because they want to wear you down. They want you to back away from the money that's owed to you. They want you to just walk off. They want to keep the money that they owe you under the policy, and you should not let them. So, for Nick here, John, I would get in touch with him after the show. I'll speak with him, go over everything, review the medical documents he does have, review his policy, and I can tell you, I have no doubt, just based on what he wrote, that he has a legal claim, and we can force his insurance company to pay.
Yeah, that term objective medical evidence, how often does that crop up, especially when it comes to mental health situations when they're off?
Often.
It doesn't show up on an X-ray, it doesn't show up on an MRI necessarily, so they do it all the time, right?
You know what? I'd like to ask this adjuster who cut him off if he can show me, objective evidence that, there's such a thing as $1 million. I mean, has he ever seen $1 million? Is there anything objective to support that? Yeah, it's stupid. It's a stupid thing to say. And the reality is that, if this adjuster actually had a leg to stand on, this adjuster could have simply pointed to where in the policy, the LTD policy, it says you have to have objective medical documentation to prove your injury or illness, and he would have had to then point to that and say, well, based on that, we're going to deny your claim, we're going to cut you off. He hasn't done that. These adjusters they don't do that often. They throw whatever they can at the wall, see what sticks, and hope they walk away from the money that's owed to you.
All right, coming up here, 3 things you need to do if you're struggling to work because of depression. First, we'll take a quick break, so stand by for that. 1-855-821-5900 is the number, and go to disabilityrights.ca, the website as well. Stick around, coming right back. Disability Law Show.
You lost your job. They only gave you 2 weeks of severance per year worked. But where can you find out what you're really owed?
I'm going to severancepaycalculator.com.
Find out how much you're owed right now. severancepaycalculator.com.
You've been denied long-term disability. You think you're powerless, but you have a lot more power than you think. I'll tell you a secret. It's a numbers game for the insurance company. They're betting on you walking away from money that they owe you. Don't make that mistake. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to disabilityrights.ca. You lost your job. They said they had a good reason, but you think you've been wrongfully dismissed. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
All right, welcome back. This is the Disability Law Show. John Scholes here, along with Sivan Tumarkin again this week. Want to get into this one, Sivan. That is 3 things you got to do if you're struggling to work because of depression. By the way, anytime you want to reach out, you can make a phone call, 1-855-821-5900. There's also a website called mydisabilityquestions.com. You can type in your questions there, leave it. There's also a searchable database. There's a good chance your question has already been asked and answered in depth. If not, leave it there. Sivan, member of his team, will get to it. So again, mydisabilityquestions.com. First one, Sivan. Number 1 is this: don't ignore it. Speak with your doctor and get a referral to a mental health professional. What say you?
Yeah, this is really, really important. I mean, I know that it's very basic, but the reality is that legal issues aside, you do want to get better. People generally, John, do want to get better. Unless there's something really wrong with them mentally, they want to get better. And so, you need to make sure that the right person is treating you. And family doctors are fantastic, but they're not specialists, right? If you have a heart condition, you're going to go to a cardiologist. If you have, whatever other issue you have, you're going to go to whoever you need to go to. If it's a mental illness issue, if it's a mental health issue, you need to go to a psychologist or a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist. You need to get the help that you need. Now, that's from a medical standpoint, obviously, that makes sense. From a legal standpoint, I can tell you the claims where an individual does have a specialist that's treating them, that's helping them, are stronger generally than claims where there isn't a specialist that's helping. And the reason is because of optics. Insurance companies, when they look at a case and they see somebody who says, I'm suffering from depression, anxiety, something like that, the first thing or one of the first things they ask is, well, okay, who's treating you? Are you going to a family doctor once every 3 months, or are you seeing a psychologist, twice a week? Clearly, if you're seeing someone that specializes in that area where you're having a difficulty with, if you're seeing that, a person like that every week or every 2 weeks or whatever, if the frequency is high, clearly that makes more of an impression in terms of the seriousness of your condition, that you need that kind of help, that specialized help in that frequency. So from a legal standpoint, just going to a specialist or someone who can help you that specializes in the area that you need help with already strengthens your legal claim significantly. And I have seen cases, John, where a person who has a disability, be it a physical or a mental one, and they've been cut off or denied long-term disability, they're treated differently once they have a specialist that is assigned to them or that they go see who is treating them. Because then insurance companies just optically just assume that these individuals clearly have these issues because now they're seeing a specialist. So, again, it's very, very important. Definitely, if you have an issue that's disabling you, physical, psychological, a combination of them, make sure that you get the help you need, the specialized help that you need.
Okay, number two, second thing you got to follow, this one also very important, follow prescribed treatment, always.
Very, very important. And again, not only from a medical standpoint, which makes sense, right? I mean, you got to follow the prescribed treatment to get better. But from a legal standpoint, look, insurance companies often cut people off or deny their LTD claims, their long-term disability claims, when they conclude, whether it's correctly or not correctly, that the person is not following prescribed treatments. If your doctor says you have to do X, you have to do X, unless there is a reason for you not to do that treatment. For example, John, I've had people come to me and say, look, I've been prescribed a certain medication, but it makes me sick. Yeah. So I say to them, okay, well, don't just stop taking the medication and that's it. Speak with your doctor, your psychiatrist, chronic pain doctor, whoever prescribed you the medication. Speak with them, explain the situation. I'm sure that they will simply try something else because they're not going to say to someone, look, this medication makes you sick, we're not going to try anything else. They're going to give you something else. The one thing you do not want to do is you do not want it to be in your medical file that the doctor's saying you should be doing X, Y, and Z, and you're not doing that because then the insurance company, under the terms of the LTD policy, can say that you are in breach of that policy. They can say that you have not complied with a fundamental term of the policy, which is to get prescribed treatments, which is to try and get better. It's called mitigation in legal terminology. But again, it simply makes sense, John. I just want to make sure people understand, if you don't follow the doctor's treatments and there is no reason for why you're not doing that, the insurance company may very well have grounds to deny your LTD claim or cut you off. So you have to be careful of that.
We are talking to 3 things you need to do if you're struggling to work for depression. Number 3 is this: apply for short-term disability, long-term disability, and or STD, LTD, if you have private coverage, Sivan, or through work as well, right?
Yeah, and this is especially true now during the pandemic, but even before. Look, most people, many people, are not aware that they actually have disability coverage through their benefits at work. Check with your HR, check with the higher-ups in your company. Check if you have disability coverage, short-term and or long-term, okay? Many companies have that kind of coverage. If you are disabled from working, and by disabled I mean you simply cannot do the essential tasks of your own occupation, okay? You should apply for disability with your doctor's support. Now, if you don't have disability coverage through work, this is why I tell people, John, to check now before they need it. And if you don't have that kind of coverage, speak with a broker that deals with these kinds of coverages, this kind of insurance. You can just Google that and get private coverage because you never know if you're going to need it in the future. And now, unfortunately, John, we're entering a time where actually we have been now in this time of a pandemic where psychological disabilities are rampant. People are having breakdowns, understandably so, and they need that safety net to carry them through. So again, you should make sure that if you have that kind of coverage, disability coverage, make sure that you apply for it if you cannot work because of a disability, because of anxiety, depression, chronic pain, anything that disables you from working. Make sure you apply for disability. Remember, most STD policies, short-term disability policies, will cover you up to 80 to sometimes 100% of your income, right? So, I mean, there's no reason not to take that time off that you need if, in fact, you need it and if your doctor supported. And long-term disability policies, generally speaking, they cover 60, 65, sometimes 70+% of your pre-disability income while you are off on that disability plan, again, in order to give you the time you need to get better, to get back to work.
Question: will an accident affect my disability claim? We will tackle that first, so we got to take a quick break, Sivan. So take a bit of a breather, and we'll go forth with that one. In the meantime, 1-855-821-5900. help@disabilityrights.ca is the email address. It's a Disability Law Show coming right back.
You were being harassed, and when you said something about it, you're the one who lost your job. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
Insurance companies deny long-term disability claims all the time. They give lots of excuses. Don't give up. I've seen it all. They've ignored your doctors, they've ignored you. You're angry and you're frustrated. But there's hope. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to disabilityrights.ca. You thought you had a secure job. You didn't see it coming. Now what do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
All right, thanks so much for joining us or sticking around. Disability Law Show. Again, John Scholes here, Sivan Tumarkin, answering all the questions. You want to send an email anytime, you could do so, not just now, just anytime at all. help@disabilityrights.ca is the way you do that. The phone number to reach out to Sivan, a member of his team, 1-855-821-5900. As promised, another email for you, Sivan. This one from Derek this time. Derek says, my wife began receiving disability benefits shortly after being diagnosed with breast cancer. As her health improved, her medical team discussed a gradual return to work. When the insurance company got wind of that, they cut off her benefits. A few months later, the cancer returned, and she's now back in treatment with no return date. Should she appeal the insurer's decision?
This is absolutely outrageous. It's just, I have no words. And again, when I hear these kinds of stories, your heart breaks for these people, John. I mean, you're talking about people who are going through the most difficult periods in their lives. And this insurance company that's supposed to be there, it's supposed to provide a safety net for this lady, for Derek and his wife. This is what they do. They aggravate the situation. They make it even worse. I've had, discussions with doctors where they've told me that their patients had regressed, especially with psychological claims, when insurance companies have taken, steps like that. So to me, so first of all, let me just say this, Derek. Your wife 100% has a legal claim here against the insurance company. And I actually think this is one of those cases where I would, not just tack on a claim for aggravated and punitive damages against the insurance company. I would pursue it, even if they put her back on LTD. I would pursue it, unless they paid a substantial sum to Derek's wife, because of what they've done here. This is absolutely outrageous. For the fact that the medical team had talked about a gradual return to work, a potential gradual return to work, they did their job. They did their job. She's doing her job in trying to get better. And here the insurance company comes along, and without consulting these doctors, without getting, making sure everything is ready and ready to go for her to go back, they cut her off. It's just outrageous. So no, this is one of those cases where I would tell her, and to Derek, we have to start a legal claim now. And it's one of those cases, John, where I would not be surprised if once we started that legal claim and the insurance company was served with that claim, and they appointed a defense lawyer who looked at the situation with a fresh pair of eyes, that I would get a phone call from that lawyer saying, we made a mistake. Can we put your client back on LTD? To which, of course, I would say yes. And what are you going to pay her and the husband to compensate them for this grief, for this high-handed conduct that you just did? So, no, absolutely he has a case, John, and I'll tell you, this is one of those cases, again, that I would pursue extra contractual damages to just punish the insurance company and punish this adjuster.
MyDisabilityQuestions.com. I mentioned that a segment or two ago. It's a place for you to go and ask your questions anytime. There's also a searchable database of questions previously asked. You can search those to see if your question is there. If not, leave it there, and the guys that get to it, Sivan, or member of the team. And from MyDisabilityQuestions.com, Sivan, I want to get to Kaylee's letter. Kaylee says, I've been off work on stress leave for the past few months due to anxiety and depression. I was denied disability benefits because the insurer said there wasn't enough evidence of a disabling condition. To make matters worse, I was rear-ended last week and injured my neck and back. My auto insurance is offering to pay for some therapy. Does this affect my disability claim?
Yes, absolutely, Kaylee, it does. And this is important, John, for people to understand that, one of the reasons why I tell people that you have to make sure you choose the right lawyer and right law firm to help you, is because these areas of law, injury, disability, employment, they intersect. So in the case of a car accident, as an example, you would be entitled to certain benefits from your own insurance company if you're in Ontario, or ICBC if you're in British Columbia, where we also have offices. It's really, really important to understand that if one insurance company pays, another insurance company who is also supposed to pay may get a credit for the initial payment. So absolutely, I mean, this is something that we have to look at. And oftentimes we engage in discussions once we start that legal process against the insurance company with all the parties that are involved, right? Because you may have a situation here where you have multiple claims. Now, if she was rear-ended, well, then she potentially has then a personal injury claim against whoever injured her, whoever was in the car behind her that rear-ended her vehicle. So now you have a potential third insurance company if you're in Ontario. Again, ICBC in BC, but again, you have multiple insurance companies, multiple coverages, and depending on the jurisdiction you're in, depending on the kind of benefits that you're getting, depending on the kind of claims you bring, all of these have to be sorted out. And you need to make sure that you do that, because if you don't, you could be in a position down the road where you've received certain monies and then another insurance company is saying, well, we're not going to pay you now, X and Y, because you've already received that from the other insurance company. Or they may even say, you know what, we've paid you this, you've received money from there, we want you to pay us back. Again, you don't want to be in that situation, so we need to talk about that. And John, to also talk about something that Kaylee has mentioned here, where the insurance company has essentially denied her disability benefits because they're saying she doesn't have sufficient proof or enough documentation to prove her disability. Again, I see this nonsense being thrown around by insurance companies quite often, where they say there's insufficient medical documentation supporting the disability. There's insufficient this, insufficient that. They don't explain what they want. And so what they're doing is they're telling people we don't have enough information, documentation. People think that they need to go to another doctor or continue going to their own doctor for more things. Doctors get frustrated. People get frustrated. No one knows what to do. And at the end, even when you give them new information and more documentation, they still deny your claim. Why? Very, very simple. Because they want you to just stop. They want you to back off. They want to wear you down. They want to shake you off claim. It's really not that difficult to figure out. And why do they want to do it? Because if you back away from the claim, from your money stays in their pocket. It's just that simple. Now, again, people may say, John, well, you're a lawyer, Sivan, it's in your best interest to tell people to contact you. Yeah, it is in my best interest, absolutely. Full disclosure, I am a lawyer. I do help individuals. I will also tell you if you have no case. Each one of my team members, has been trained, understands the law, and will tell you if you have a case or if you don't have a case. And guess what? We're not forcing you to do anything. All we want to make sure is that you know what your rights are. And at the end of the day, even if you know what your rights are, but you want to pursue your claim with a different law firm, different lawyer, by all means, go ahead and do it, as long as you know what your rights are. As long as you've been educated and you know if the insurance company is correct or not, and you know what your options are, we've done our job. I am more than happy. At the end of the day, if I tell you have a case and you want us to pursue it, trust me, we're going to pursue it, and we're going to put our entire firm's resources, personnel, reputation, everything we have into your case to make sure that we go all the way and we force the insurance company to pay you what you're owed.
Which is why you don't take every case and cast a wide net, because it's not worth your resources.
No. First of all, it's not worth the resources. Second of all, we are very, very, we're very careful with our reputation. We've built a reputation over the years, that is working for us and our clients. Insurance companies know that when they get a claim and when they flip to the back page and they see my name or my firm's name or one of the lawyers of my firm's names, they understand it's a serious case. They understand that we are selective about the cases we pursue. I don't care if your case is worth $1,000 or $10 million. I care if you are legitimately disabled, and I care if the insurance company has wronged you. And if they have wronged you and you are disabled and you have a case and I tell you have a case, trust me, you can take that to the bank. We're going to pursue them with everything that we have.
That'll pretty much do it for today, pal. Again, Kaylee went to mydisabilityquestions.com to ask that question. You can anytime as well, or reach out by phone, 1-855-821-5900, and the email address, as you know, we use it all the time, help@disabilityrights.ca. At least get out there, get the information. A quick chat's not going to cost you a dime, so reach out to Sivan and his crew. Again, help@disabilityrights.ca is that email address, and 1-855-821-5900. We'll catch you next time. Disability Law Show. Appreciate you hanging around.